Welcome back to the podcast. Today we are joined by Mateo Hernandez. Mateo, welcome to the podcast.
Hey, thank you. Thank you so much for having me on.
For anyone meeting you for the first time, what are you focused on most right now?
Focused on people meeting me for the first time. I'm really focused on building my media company. It's the Mateo Hernandez podcast. And the broader vision for it, we want it to be a large marketing company. So we want to do events. We want to have other hosts. We delve specifically in entrepreneurship and money. And we bring on investors, we bring on entrepreneurs, we bring on executives. And our niche is to cater to inspiration and education for mainly younger entrepreneurs. But, everyone is welcome, but within that 35 to 20-year-old age range.
Mateo, I saw that you wrote a post about honesty and integrity, saying that the business world needs more of it, and that's something you learned firsthand during your time at Fifth Avenue Capital. Happened that made that lesson feel you should share it to the people?
At my time at Fifth Avenue?
Mm-hmm.
So, my time at Fifth Avenue was great. I still talk to my boss, Reagan Rodriguez. He's a great mentor. He's a financier, and he is definitely a man of integrity. And he taught me a lot about punctuality. He taught me about how to treat people with respect, how to hold yourself with the highest degree of professionalism. And so that's really where the integrity, be who you say you are. There's a lot of people who claim to be all sorts of things, but that's where I got that from. And I carry that with me through my companies and my company and what I do on a daily basis every day.
A lot of people say that they value integrity, but in practice they actually bend when it's convenient, right? When you meet someone new, maybe a founder or partner or an employee, are there any sort of signals that tells you that this person is solid?
Oh, sure. Yeah, there's signals, but you have to ask the right questions. When you onboard a new employee or a founder or a partner, you have to spend time with them. You have to spend time with them. You have to ask them questions. You need to see if your ethics and values align. And more oftentimes than not, when you ask specific questions, whether it has to do with ethics or how they think or what they value, you're going to realize, I think, sooner than later, if it's a good fit or not. But it comes from, and that's a very difficult thing for, I think, most business owners to do, is to simply have a conversation and get to know each other, and to ask the tough questions, But if you don't ask the tough questions, then you could be introducing someone that is unaligned with the vision and the direction of what you're trying to do or achieve. Yeah.
Also, in another post, I saw that you had a pretty strong take that not starting a business can come down to a lack of conviction, and that dreams become real only when there is action that is ritualized. Where do you actually draw the line between, healthy conviction and just having an ego or posturing?
Really good question. So the line between conviction and ego is somewhat thin. I think the difference is this is a team sport. Like, the game I'm in is a team sport. Not a single person can do it on their own. It may start with you, but it doesn't end with just you. And so conviction is important, because if you don't have the conviction, you can't do anything. People that have, we all have an ego. You just need to monitor it. I believe in having conviction that I can do something. And I believe in being confident with that conviction, right? But you can't even get the confidence in the beginning. The confidence comes at the end, somewhere in the middle. But you need courage. Courage, that's probably the right word. You need courage to start, and the confidence builds. People that have an ego are those that have success, or maybe they don't have success, and they think of themselves bigger than what they actually are, right? Because when you start a venture, there's so many moving parts within the administration, within the vision, within your network. There are relationships to maintain. There are details you need to take account for. So those that have giant egos are really just people that are seriously delusional, and they're not understanding how complex these things are, and how it's important to stay humble, and it's important to it's there's nothing wrong with posting accomplishments, but when you post things and say this was all on me, I'm the one who did this, right? And you don't give credit to other people, that those are people who are ego centered. Everything has to be about them. That is not how I am. And so that's really the line. Is it all about you, or is what you're doing a critical piece to the whole of the pie? If that makes sense.
Yeah, definitely. I would like to make this a little bit practical. If someone listening wants to start something, but they are stuck in this, let's say, idea mode,
Hmm.
what's the first non-obvious question, action, sorry, that you'd tell them to take in the next 7 days to actually create some kind of momentum for them?
Really good question. So, I mean, it took me, I think, 2 years. I had this idea maybe 2 or 3 years ago, and I wasn't very consistent. And I wasn't sure if I was all in on what I wanted to do. I have no regrets about what happened because I think everything I've been doing has been leading up to this moment. But I would say to someone else who's a bit younger, be consistent and just start it. And you have to ask yourself, what am I trying to do? Is it reasonable? That's kind of a hard thing to ask, but like, you have to look at the resources you have, you have to look at the network you have, you have to look at the capital you have. Okay, within reason, what can I do? And I think there's a lot of ideas that, if it's an online business or anything online can be done today for free. I still use freemium models. I'm not using premium, so, and also it's going to look bad in the beginning. That's how it works. So just figure out a short-term plan, put together maybe 2 or 3 or 4 things that you want to accomplish, and then get your calendar out, set aside time, a system of every day or 3 days a week. Maybe you start 2 days a week, right? And keep consistent with that, and then just build on it. But you have to understand, you know, if you don't start, then you don't have consistency. You're not going to have momentum. So that's something I still struggle. I'm consistent, but there are some days where it's difficult to get what I need to get to. So just stay in that battle and just start and make sure it's something that you enjoy doing, you're good at doing, and that there's some need, there's a need for it in the community, the broader community. That's what I say. Have courage. That's the main thing. Have courage. I think a lot of it is fear, but you can't.
Mm.
You're an entrepreneur. You can't care what other people think. That's part of the business.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, I mean, action and consistency are the almost the recipe for success. Basically in anything, not just business. Even if you want maybe to have a good body, for example, you need to lift weights and you need to do it consistently for a long period of time. Now, you mentioned leadership and philosophy and also networking as key areas that you've learned through your university clubs. What's one leadership lesson that you learned the hard way? Is there something that you didn't get from reading a book?
So that's a good question. You hear this. I'm American. I'm from originally South Florida, but in America you hear the buzzword leadership a lot. It's leadership is it's something that's, I think, learned. Leaders are built, they're not born. So trust me on that. There's actionable steps you can take today to be a better leader. And all that really is just accountability. It's accountability. It's following through with what you say. It's giving credit to others, not yourself. You can get things from books for sure. I mean, if you want to read about great leadership, read about Napoleon, read about Marcus Aurelius, read any great Ulysses S. Grant, for example, great general. You can read about other entrepreneurs read about Bezos. Read from the best. I like Bezos, Musk. How do they lead? Michael Saylor, how does he lead? Compare the leadership styles. But I think it's just the basics: accountability, honesty, integrity, giving credit to others, and be willing to do the work that nobody else wants to do. You see, because that's how you inspire others. So it's just following through. It's action based, I think. It's making the hard choices that other people don't want to make. It's being uncomfortable. That's what I think it is. And you might be not so good a leader in the beginning. It doesn't matter. You'll get better. You'll learn. Just go out there, go through some pain, and pick yourself back up. Keep going. Yeah.
Now, since you are aiming toward the finance side, I'm curious how you think about this when you look at a business or an idea. Are there any things that you pay attention to? Maybe revenue model or the margins?
Finance are the things I pay attention to. I mean, as an entrepreneur, you need to understand the basics of finance. You need to understand accounting, how that operates. You need to understand, I think, blockchain technologies, how that's looking to be. You need to understand markets. You need to understand how Wall Street works broadly, because whatever Wall Street's doing is going to have an effect on your business. That's just kind of how it goes. Once you start understanding the financial matrix, you start realizing, oh, this company is invested in this company, which is invested in this, endowment fund or this pension. It affects everything. So, take it with a grain of salt. I'm not saying you have to be an expert, but just know how stuff works. Know how finance, when you go to a bank, understand the terms. When you go to an angel investor, understand how they work. When you go to a VC, understand how they operate, right? At whatever level you're looking at. So, it's always important to understand securities, how do equities operate? How do debts operate? What is Bitcoin? Everyone should know what Bitcoin is. I don't care who you are, what you're doing. You need to know what Bitcoin is, because that's something that can arguably act as an umbrella for your company. And so I think it's pretty clear understanding basic finance, and it's easy to understand. It's not complicated. It gets complicated when you have the layers. And then you have, I don't know, Peter Schiff saying, using all sorts of different financial jargon. But he's just operating at a very high level. But what he's talking about is very basic things. Or anyone that is at the top of the financial world. You can look at Carl Icahn, Michael Saylor, etc. Yeah.
Yeah, as you mentioned the Bitcoin, I just the other day I saw a video where they were walking on the street and asking random strangers if they would like one Bitcoin or $1,000, and 85% of the people said that they would like $1,000 instead of having one Bitcoin, which is that's ridiculous.
That's crazy.
That that really just shows how financially illiterate people really are. Now,
Yeah.
if you could go back to your first semester and give yourself one piece of advice about anything, what would you say and why?
I mean, if I could, I, I don't know. It's such a tough question. I learned so many important lessons in college. I learned important lessons with relationships, with discipline, with control, self control. You'd be amazed how many people, the majority of people that don't have self control, and how important that is when it comes to relationships and to business and all this other stuff. I would say probably start. I should have, I think, started sooner with creating content and interviewing people, because then I would have been ahead a lot. I would have been up maybe 5x, 10x than where I am now. But also, you got to think about, well, was I ready to do that? Everyone's at a different stage in life. Some people are ready to make certain commitments than others. So for me, it was the perfect timing doing what I'm doing. Maybe if I started sooner, that would have interfered with my grades, or that would have interfered with my relationships, or that would have interfered with something else that's equally or more important. There's trade-offs to everything, but I would say start sooner with the content if I could, maybe 2 days a week, something light. I don't think I'd be able to do five days a week of just putting out content, editing, because it's a lot of work. So that's what I would say. Start sooner, start smaller, and I probably would have had a bit more of a head start. Maybe more
On
connections.
the other hand, uh on the other hand, you started, which is the important part of this, is that you are on the track, right?
Yeah.
So that's what I would say. There is an upside to this. Anyways, thanks for joining the podcast, Mateo. I will add your LinkedIn profile so people can connect. And thank you guys for watching.
Thank you so much for having me. Appreciate it.